Patrick Hunt, who teaches classical archaeology at Stanford University, calls the Pantheon the most impressive Roman monumental building in the world. I see it as a calendar in stone. Its rotunda is an engineering marvel, employing techniques such as reinforced concrete, not rediscovered until almost 2,000 years later. In this plan view, you can see the floor pattern in which stone from all over the empire was inlaid, a testament to Rome's imperial might. Its circle and square motif might symbolize the Earth-Moon system in the following way. Here a circle is inscribed within a square. The square has 27.3% more area than the circle. Comparing a circle and square with equal perimeters, the circle's diameter is 27.3% larger than the edge of the square. Okay, so what? Well, the moon happens to be 27.3% the size of Earth, which is another way of relating moon to Earth with the proportion 3:11. In addition, the moon's sidereal orbital period is 27.3 days. The words moon, month, and menstruation all share the same root because they all have roughly the same period. Human gestation lasts on average 273 days. Another spooky coincidence has to do with temperature. As you're probably aware, Celsius is defined by a 100-degree scale, marking the freezing and boiling points of water. Water becomes liquid 273 degrees Celsius above absolute zero. Here are these numbers again. It seems to me that this fact references Earth as a water planet. Why are these numbers the same? Science has no answer for this other than pure coincidence. In this sectional view, you can see that a sphere fits perfectly within the volume the Pantheon encloses. I think recognizing this as the celestial sphere is the key to the Pantheon's symbolism. The original Roman statuary fit into the 7 alcoves. The pantheon of pagan gods was replaced with Christian saints when the building was christened the Church of Santa Maria Rotunda in the year 609. Exchanging pagan gods for astrological symbols, we see an arrangement matching the Ptolemaic harmony of the spheres. To the modern eye, this sequence might seem arbitrary, but it actually ranks the planets in order of increasing apparent speed against the background of fixed stars as seen from Earth. Ptolemaic cosmology is therefore an Earth-centric approach to astronomy. Mark Booth writes in The Secret History of the World, Ptolemy's map of the spheres is conventionally presented as having been superseded by the ideas of Copernicus, Galileo, and so on, but in fact was and is an accurate map of the spiritual dimension of the cosmos, a dimension which seemed more real to the ancients than the material cosmos. Are you aware that the days of the week are named after the planets? With the exception of Saturn Day, Sun Day, and Moon Day, English speakers unfamiliar with Norse gods might have an easier time spotting this connection in French or Italian. Connecting the days of the week in order yields a 7-pointed star, somewhat distorted to accommodate squeezing it into the octagonal symmetry of the Pantheon. Looking up in the rotunda, you see the oculus, or central void in the dome. The oculus is the sole source of illumination in the interior, so it clearly symbolizes the sun. The 5 rising tiers of coffers might represent the 5 planets visible with the naked eye from Earth. The 28 divisions around the circumference is where things really get interesting. It is my contention that the 28 rays represent days. Consider a month of 4 7-day weeks lasting 28 days. 13 such months add up to 364 days. The extra day needed to round out a 365-day year is where we get the phrase, a year and a day. Richard Heath has traced this 13-month plus 1-day calendar to the matriarchal societies of the Bronze Age. The Egyptian Sothic year lasted exactly 365 days, without compensating for leap year as we do today. Sothis is the Greek name for Sirius, the star the Egyptians based their new year on. Any way that Father Time slices it, the 28-day division fits the Osiris story. The Temple of Isis on the island of Philae has bas-reliefs which tell the Osiris story. Here Osiris has 28 stalks of wheat emerging from his dead body. The 13 pieces that Isis later reassembled symbolize the 13-month calendar of 28-day months, and his missing phallus represents the extra day, rounding out the Sothic year. Many religious stories encrypt astronomical information in their core levels. Returning to Egypt for more wisdom, let's take a look at the Earth-Moon diagram that came from studying the Great Pyramid. Recall how the relative sizes of Moon and Earth fit the diagram when the circle was squared. John Michell rediscovered the key to much more ancient wisdom still encrypted in this diagram in his book, The Dimensions of Paradise. Michell expanded the number of spheres in the diagram from 1 to 12 for reasons that will soon become apparent. If the mean diameter of the Moon is 2,160 miles, then the 12-moon evolution in the diagram encodes the great year. 2,160 times 12 equals 25,920, which is Earth's precessional period. Each month in this so-called great year is likened to an age in astrology. We are currently leaving the age of Pisces, and it's the dawning of the age of Aquarius. John Michell calls this the New Jerusalem diagram from his analysis of the Revelation of St. John. A 7-pointed star resonates within. Remember the 7-rayed diadem of Isis and the 7 rays of the Statue of Liberty? I prefer to call this the Isis diagram, in reference to the older stream of knowledge coming out of Egypt. The Isis diagram encodes just intonation in music. On the most basic level, consider 1 octave of a piano keyboard. A total of 12 notes are divided by sharps, leaving 7 white keys. The term sharp suggests the pointy heptagram, doesn't it? As we'll soon see at Chartres Cathedral, music, along with astronomy, geometry, and number theory, are all keys to this ancient mystery. Expanding the Isis diagram to contain 4 7-pointed stars, we have what I call the Osiris diagram, which encodes the Sothic year of 365 days in the following way. The 28 tips of the stars represent days in the ancient month. 12 circles surround a 13th, located at the center of the stars. The circles represent months. 13 months of 28 days each defines the year. The Earth circle underlying the stars represents the extra day and completion of the Sothic year. And the Sothic year was itself calibrated by the heliacal rising of the star of Isis, consort to Osiris. It's beautiful the way the geometry matches the cosmology. The architecture of the universe is embedded in Egyptian cosmology. To perceive the larger ramifications of the cosmology we are rediscovering, let's break away from 2D diagrams and explore where we live, the third dimension. It's a 3D reality that 12 spheres fit perfectly around a central 13th, with all of them tangent to each other, while the 13 fit perfectly within an overarching sphere. I think this 3D reality is the source of the obsession with the number 13 that we've seen symbolized in so many places. Recall all the lucky 13s on the Great Seal of the United States. Lucky 13 might be more precisely described as 12 surrounding 1. In the Last Supper, Da Vinci depicts Jesus in the center, surrounded by 12 apostles. Geometrically speaking, connecting the centers of the 12 surrounding spheres with straight lines reveals what is called the cuboctahedron. The cuboctahedron has faces composed of squares and triangles, ad quadratum et ad triangulum, as they would say in the Middle Ages. As it turns out, cuboctahedral sphere packing has exactly 7 planes of symmetry. Do these numbers sound familiar? 12 around 1 with 7 planes of symmetry? The cuboctahedron is the 3D equivalent of the Isis diagram. The first ever known depiction of a cuboctahedron was drawn by Leonardo da Vinci. he created this illustration for Luca Pacioli's book, De Divina Proportione. Pacioli and Da Vinci worked together, became close friends, and later shared a house together in Florence. Pacioli was at the center of the Renaissance Hermetic obsession, begun by Cosimo de' Medici in 1430 when he obtained the Corpus Hermetica, a body of work compiled in the first few centuries of the Common Era, recounting words passed down by Thoth through the last of the Egyptian priesthood in Alexandria. Here is Pacioli with a mysterious transparent cuboctahedron half filled with water. Some believe the younger man standing next to him is Albrecht Dürer. In Divine Proportion, Priya Hemingway writes, "In the autumn of 1506, Albrecht Dürer rode from Venice to Bologna to the home of Luca Pacioli in order to be initiated in the mysteries of a secret perspective." Clearly the cuboctahedron was important to these Renaissance masters immersed in Hermetic knowledge. Perhaps they knew something we don't. In the 20th century, Buckminster Fuller was obsessed with the cuboctahedron. He called it the Dymaxion and built his philosophy around it because the cuboctahedron is the only polyhedron completely in equilibrium. All 12 vectors emanating from its core have equal angles, and all of its internal and external edges have equal length. In the 21st century, the cuboctahedron is the foundation for physicist Nassim Haramein's unified field theory that offers a new solution to Einstein's field equations. Haramein claims that the vacuum, a term used by physicists to refer to a volume of space that is completely devoid of matter, actually has a structure, and this structure is based at the core on the cuboctahedron. What we perceive as empty space is actually a seething cauldron of energy. Physicists calculate that the amount of energy in each and every cubic centimeter of space exceeds the energy output of all stars visible to the Hubble Space Telescope. The reason space seems empty is because all that energy is perfectly balanced in a state of equilibrium. It looks to us like nothing is there. Haramein has built his entire unified theory of physics on cuboctahedral geometry. I believe Haramein is really onto something. His latest paper, the Schwarzschild proton, received the Best Paper Award in a physics symposium in 2009. Modern physics seems to be catching up with ancient knowledge.